is this? Tabletop Island, huh? Let's see what this is all about.
First of all, in a little bit over a month, I just hit 200 subscribers from just recently doing 100 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I do appreciate all of not only the feedback, but the support. I very much enjoy making these videos, and you guys are making it that much more sweeter and getting the word out there, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Welcome to Tabletop Island. I'm Bernardo, your host, and today we're gonna do a little bit of an interesting topic here for my Wednesday video. Matt Wilkins actually mentioned in my Slime Monster game review that I had kind of a bonus review in the game, which was a slime review. And that kind of rang a bell in my head when I rewatched it and realized I didn't really show a lot of the other slimes. I just kind of talked about them. So now I wanted to have a definitive video that reviewed slimes for games and toys itself. It hasn't been done, and I think there is a lot to talk about and a lot of reasonings why I like and don't like certain slimes. And I did get my hands on some Mattel slime and a few other interesting slimes that are really popular in the toy and game industry, just to kind of go over why people like them, what I like about certain slimes, and what I look for when I want to play board games with slimes. But let's take a look a little bit about the kind of slimes that I have, and then we'll go over consistencies, where to get it. I'll have links in the description where to get each one of these because I got all of them recently. I didn't have them stashed away, and give a little bit of insight as to why I like certain things, why others may like other kinds of slimes for different reasons, and why toy companies utilize these specific slimes over something. We'll get to that.
So we have Mattel slime. This actually ended up being a cool Ghostbusters slime. You can kind of see it there. It was a Ghostbuster Ecto Slime Mini. It actually, I'll show what that little piece on top is. Ended up having this over this lid, and it has a cool little ghost picture or a toy here that glows in the dark for the Ghostbusters theme there. But let's take a look at the slime itself. Now I'll leave the link in the description as to where I got that. This actually came out a few years ago. A lot of the videos I saw ended up being about 3 years ago, so I felt like the slime would be good. I was right. I ended up finding it on eBay. Really solid deal, about $5 for this thing. I got quite a few of them just in case I ended up changing my mind about the slime. But let's talk a little bit about it. So the first thing, let's take a look at how runny it is. And I'm gonna do this without me touching it, of course, because I want you to see how it pours. It pours quite like liquid. And you can see that there, that consistency and that drip is nice. So let's touch it a little bit. See, I can kind of get a good handle on it. It's not so much like liquid. It still can be like pulled on, it can be grabbed. And I say this because obviously if it was more like a liquid, it would not be able to be grabbed and there wouldn't be a way to get a handle on it. So, I mean, the flow of this is extremely nice. Now you can see that there. That looks great. My problem is, as you can see with my hands, it is actually sticking to me. Now let me see if I can pull it off here, which is why I have my whiteboard here, because I didn't want to get it on my sand background because that would have got ugly. But, so I pull it off. Here, I'm actually gonna pull it all off of my fingers to the best of my ability. Really trying here. Man, this sticks. And let's even try to pick it up a little bit because you can kind of see it. It can pick off of the surface pretty well. The only surface it doesn't pick off very well, it seems to be, is my hands. And yes, this is really good Mattel slime for Mattel slime. Now, my only gripe, it flows great. When you touch it, you don't really get it on your fingers. I mean, I already have it on my fingers, so it's really hard to tell. Let me actually kind of wipe one of my pinky fingers a little bit. You can kind of see I cleared that up a little bit. When you touch it, it doesn't actually stick to your finger just by touching it. If I start to pick it up, it comes off of a flat surface as such, so it doesn't stick that well. So obviously on like a board game material and for toys, this is perfect. And one of the big things and one of the big selling points with this being thin and more gooey is that if you're using it for toys, then it's not going to stick into the crevices and the joints of the toy. So when you're sliming toys, it's not going to be like caught within the joint of the arm, to where over time it can just really kind of weaken the movement of the arm and eventually ruin the toy or break it. So this does wash off rather well. You run your toy through the sink, I'm sure you will get everything off rather easily. But again, my big pet peeve is my hands. I've kind of worked it a little bit to see if I can get more off without that touching the slime, but man, it is hard to get off. So that is going to be my big pet peeve for this. But for toys, that is going to be the reason why I recommend, or I could say I can see it being used for those, because it's easy to clean and it won't get stuck, and again, those joints are crevices. But in terms of game and constant use, for me, it sticks on my fingers, and when I'm playing with friends, I don't want them to have to worry about cleaning up while they're playing the game, especially when you look at my Slime Monster review game. He drips out of the monster, and yeah. So that is the Mattel slime. The next one's the Tire Ooze. Pixel Dan, who is big in toy reviews, talks about this one being his best substitute for Mattel slime, and he, like I mentioned, got it at his dollar store. I'm actually going to take out the tire piece, because if you do recognize his videos and you watch them, you'll recognize it looks more like this, because he doesn't have the tire piece on it. And again, I looked at research for a lot of the big reviewers and just slime in general, just to get the best substitute for Mattel, because initially I thought that's what I needed, but it turned out not to be what I wanted. But again, I'm here to review and go over why I think each of these is used and why they're good in their own right. So this one, let's just pour it to see how that drips there. That drips a little bit faster, but its consistency is really liquidy. As you can see, when it's on the board itself, it does kind of seep and slowly kind of expand there for you. So you can definitely tell that, like, that consistency is quite drippy. So look at that. I mean, that drips really nice. I'll give it that much for sure. But let's touch the slime, because that's the part I dread a little bit sometimes, especially when it's on the stickier side. So I touch with one finger just to get an idea here. It's already sticking a little bit to my fingers, so it does what I don't like it to do. But man, look at the stretch on this. If you're comparing it to Mattel slime, he's right. I mean, definitely a little bit on the thicker side, but I do see this being a great substitute for Mattel slime, because it definitely has the same kind of drip. And if you're a toy collector, or again, you like slime toys or products that just utilize slime, or just slime in general, because there's a lot of big market, it seems like, online in terms of slime, so the kind of stuff they look for. But this is great. Now, that little bit that I did mention did tear a little bit, but it wasn't anything crazy. I think I kind of let it rip out of my hands. But as you can see there, the consistency is extremely sticky. So it goes against what I look for in a slime. But again, much like the Mattel slime for toys, it seems like this might be a good and easy one to clean up. Now, as a test here, I'll put my palm on it. Look at that. The amount of stick to it and the liquid-iness of the slime is really nice. I'll give it that. But the amount that sticks to my hand saddens me. But when you also consider some of the slime games, obviously you don't want the slime to get you. But with the Slime Monster game specifically, you have no choice, and the person that gets there first kind of has to pick it up and put it back into the Slime Monster, which isn't fun, because all this can happen. And again, you got to wash your hands constantly. But that's going to be the Tire Ooze. And again, I'll have a link in the description where to get it currently. I did find a shop online that does ship out of New York, which was really nice. I got a really good deal on it. I got 2 of them. But yeah, that is going to be Tire Ooze. This is going to be a little tricky to touch the camera. No. Yo, I'm really at the point where, like, I'm washing my hands to get this slime off, just to touch the camera to turn it off. Let's get into the dollar store slime here. It just comes here as slime. Honestly, they come in these kind of barrels, these caution warning signs, and it does come in black. I believe they have blue too, but the only 2 I'm going to be looking at today are green and black. So they were the only ones that I needed. So this is an already open one. Let's first, much like the other ones, do a pour test to see how it pours. Brace yourself, guys. Ready for it? Look at that. That's on the thicker side, but watch me tip it. Yep, there we go. Flubber popped out. Nice, clean ooze. Now, as you guys can see, this is thick. It's like a booger. Well, maybe not. Let me not make it sound like I think my boogers are thick, because that sounds weird. I'm gonna stop talking. But much unlike the other two slimes I've taken a look at thus far, this tears. And this is something toy individuals complain about, and I get it, because a lot of the toys that have ooze have little spaces for it to fall through. So with this one, this is not ideal for toys. I definitely think it's on the way thicker side here, but take a look at this. Nothing on my hand. That actually is ooze from the tire ooze, because that thing did not want to come out. But this one, nothing. A little bit of moisture, do that, and it's gone. This is great. So for board games, so for the Slime Monster game, the holes out of the nostril are rather large, so this is not a problem. It oozes decently slow here, so you can get a good ooze, and obviously if it goes across and knocks something over, it's pretty strong. I mean, the elasticity is insane. But again, it tears, much like that just happened. I can probably tear it again. Yeah, you get the idea here. But this is obviously the dollar store slime in those barrels. I very much like it. Again, for toys, something like this could break off a little bit like this, get caught in one of your toys, like the joints, and ruin your toy potentially. Not so much a guarantee, but that is indeed a possibility. But again, this is a dollar store slime, and for, again, board gaming, this is extremely ideal for me. And much like the other one, I'll pour this quickly. Whoa, comes out like Flubber. And if you've never seen Flubber, stop the video, go watch Flubber, come back, and then be like, Bernardo, thank you in the comments. Yeah, you'll thank me. Black slime, this one's kind of cool. I remember there were some toys online where like there's like mud and you drive a car. Again, I'm not a toy collector at all, but I was heavily looking for slimes, and toys seem to be kind of a good comparison for board gaming. But the slime here, it's really like liquidy and really jiggly, it's just problem is it's rather thick. And this one I can imagine staining a little bit, depending if you obviously let it stay on like white clothes, so something like that is also in consideration too. I have this red one. I'm actually working on a little mini game I've designed, one of a few actually, funny enough, but we'll talk about that later updates when I start to have things that are worth me showing. This one is other dollar store slime. Look at that ooze, man. And again, when I play with games, I usually use at least 2 of those barrels, like the Slime Monster game. But look at this, man. Just look at me lift it. It tears. It's the same kind of dollar store slime. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a couple Walmart slimes. This is the first one, Zeruush glowing slime. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the color, and glow in the dark wasn't really exciting for me, but when I looked into the container, look at that. You can kind of, matter of fact, what am I doing? This is a review. Yeah, you can kind of see it's really liquidy, or so it seems. So let's take a look at how this slime is. Look at that. You can already tell it's literally the same as that dollar store slime, but this slime was on the pricier side than the dollar store slime. So don't look at, don't be like me, kind of shake up the slime a little bit and say, wow, this looks like a good consistency, and overpay for some slime. Again, I'm not a big fan of this color glowing in the dark. If this seems like the kind of slime that you like, or you want to try something with glow in the dark features, this will probably be what you'll be looking for. But again, dollar store slime is the same texture. Don't waste your money trying to find an alternative slime when you can get a really cheaper option. The next one, which was the last one I wanted to talk about because I was extremely scared of touching it again, because we'll get there. It leaves residue. Spoiler alert. This is Craze Slimy, green apple scented pre-made slime. So let's first talk about the highlight of this slime is the fact that it smells exactly like green apple, and that was exactly why I bought it, because it smelled freaking amazing and people didn't mind getting this on their hands, right? But here's the crazy thing, which was a little puzzling to me. So look at that. I'm gonna just push my finger into that. It seems like it's a thick slime, right? But look at how it oozes. I'll let it drip a little bit on there for you. I'm not gonna let it all pour out because this is a lot. But look at the ooze on that. That ooze is really solid. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, look at painting that. Just, that is super nice. But I'm gonna stop it there and kind of break that. So, as you can tell, it pulls off a bit, right? It is like the dollar store slime, except the consistency. It's like the dollar store slime in terms of like it can pick up pretty well. I can kind of get that little bit of pickup. So if you're fast, you're probably good. Here's where the issue lies, and I will kind of play with it a little bit just to kind of show you. Look at the ooze on this is great. And even playing with it again, I may go back and forth occasionally and play this with the Slime Monster game because of how it oozed. It was really nice. With toys, it's still on a little bit of the thicker side. You should be able to wash it off rather easily because it does wash off pretty easy. The tire ooze did not, and the Mattel slime relatively wiped off. I recommend with the Mattel slime when wiping it off, do it dry and then kind of wash your hands wet. If you start wet, it makes it a little bit harder. I learned that the hard way. But here's where this one's flaws for me. Look at that. Now that's not as bad as the Mattel slime because look at this. I can do this. I can just peel it off, stick it there, right? And occasionally I'll get a little bit of residue. Well, I will get a little bit of residue. Let me not say occasionally because it happens every time I use this. So it's not as bad as I remember after playing with a lot more residue-based slimes, but it does kind of get on your knuckle, does kind of get all over your hand, but maybe with, let me try this maneuver, guys. First time ever we invented a new maneuver to get slime off of. I may have just made a breakthrough here. Let's find out. A decent amount. It's not as bad as I remember, I'll be honest with you. The amount it leaves isn't the worst, and much like the dollar store slime, look at that, picked that up rather easily, came off my table rather easily. I can pick up all this little extra residue. I'm just kind of wiping across. But yeah, so this is, I got this at Walmart. The fact that it smells like candy apple is probably the biggest selling point, and for kids and adults, they don't mind touching this. It does leave a bit of residue, and it left a lot more than, again, I remembered. But after, again, messing with some of these more heavier residue based slimes, this one wasn't as bad, but it is annoying to have to get off, and I guess if you're playing a game like this, a little wet rag won't hurt. But I just don't like residue. And kind of a bonus here, guys, I went as far as trying to make my own slime. I actually made it pretty close to Mattel slime, but obviously over time, this stuff gets hard. And yeah, the residue was not fun at all, much like the Mattel slime. So it got really close. I ended up using some baking soda and some starch, which created something interesting, but over time this does dry out rather easily, and a lot of people online were debating as to how to actually make Mattel slime. So this is a little bit of a bonus for you, how I honestly think they made it, because after touching it for so long, I'm a big horror movie fan, and I create fake blood on a regular, and fake blood uses that corn syrup. Now it feels just like corn syrup. It may be something to look at. Maybe I'll do a video later to kind of show you guys when I get to the Halloween season and mess with more fake blood. But you can actually use some properties to thicken it up, and it smells quite like Mattel slime because it has that sugary smell, which corn syrup obviously is a sugar base. Yeah, with a little bit of properties, you can make it a little bit thicker. I'm very well rounded into making fake blood, so I honestly think that might have been what they used, if not something extremely similar with the exact same properties. But maybe that'll be a video towards Halloween. again, that's kind of going over the consistency. Again, the most popular slime is going to be this Mattel slime, especially for toy lovers. But for games itself, while I do know Mattel did produce Slime Monster game, in the instructions, by it saying it takes about 10 plus minutes to flow, this would have never done that in any time period for Mattel slime. It's always been this oozy and watery. So I want to say they may have used the thicker consistency, but none of us will know that because none of the board games still have consistent slime that isn't expired. And I'm sure everyone remembers it being oozy because people remember games that way, and that's fine. So maybe if they did use this, for me it has too much residue, but go on eBay. I'll have a link in the description as to who I got it from. I got it for a little bit under $5 if I remember correctly. It's rather nice, decent amount. I got about 4 or so of these just to get a bunch in case it ended up being the one that I would go to. This is not one I will use often, if at all. Maybe for something later down the road, but in terms of board gaming and stuff like that, I can't stand touching it for too long. Yeah, so that one's going to be a no for me. But again, the understanding that with toys it washes off rather easily is important. But I'll be honest with you, when picking up this slime off of like table and stuff like that and cleanup, I feel like you're always going to lose a little bit of slime, and eventually maybe after like 10 uses, this slime will be reduced to a lot less. So that's something else to consider, and especially for toys, you're probably using it a lot more, and it can get stuck in a little bit more, and you can waste a little bit more, who knows. But yeah, Mattel slime, not the one I would recommend for the reason, mainly because of the residue, and I got some again on me because it was on the lid. Sigh. The next one I talked about was Tire Ooze. I'll have a link in the description where to get it. Again, I got it shipped out of New York. This one was very close to the Mattel slime. So Pixel Dan was good in terms of finding a slime that was almost identical to it. He's correct. This one's a little bit thicker, and I think for games, this one's better if you like that kind of ooze. I do think it has enough thickness. The only issue is the cleanup on this one. It was actually a lot worse than Mattel slime, mainly because it didn't pull off as easily. Now, while I can pull onto the Mattel slime and it pulls off really nicely, this one seemed to leave a lot of little spotty residue, and that is probably due to it being a little bit thicker. So that is Tire Ooze. Not one I would recommend, but again, if you like that consistency of Mattel slime, this is going to be your next best one. But again, I'll have a link where to get the Mattel slime if that's kind of what you want anyway. The next ones here are the dollar store slimes. These are the ones I would recommend just simply because they don't leave residue, and I'm a big whiny baby who doesn't like to clean up his hands every time he touches something, especially if he's playing a board game like Green Monster or Slime Monster game. Again, because you're constantly moving your pieces around it, and your pieces can get stuck in it, and that residue can get on the pieces and stuff. This is strong enough to make that game's impact a lot more exciting, and yeah, so this is cheap resolution here for you, dollar store. Go buy it, take a look. If you like slimes and you don't mind that they tear because you're not a big slime buff, then that's going to be it. If you are a slime buff, then it tearing is going to be a deal breaker for you. Don't bother. And that's going to run the same as this. This is like expensive dollar store slime that glows in the dark. Doesn't even have a nice color. Its glow in the dark is pretty average. Don't think the glow is the big selling point. I promise you it's not really worth it. Go get the dollar store stuff. And then finally, the crazy slime. This one smells like green apple, which is freaking awesome. I'll definitely be alternating back and forth. It does leave less residue than I remembered in this review, but from playing with it on the physical game, it does indeed leave residue, and on the board it's easy to wipe off, so that's not the biggest issue with any of these slimes. It's really mainly about getting it on my hands, but it is a lot easier to clean up than Mattel slime, and a heck of a lot easier to clean up than Tire Ooze, because this was probably one of the hardest ones to clean off my hands. I was not a fan of this, but I understand the likability for toys, but for just usage, getting other people to want to touch the slime and not be kind of steered away from it, this green apple is a big selling point. I absolutely love the smell. Smells exactly like green apple, kind of a really nice candy apple. And the consistency, while it seems extremely thick, its flow is quite perfect. Again, my only gripe would be if it was a little less sticky. That would make this a 100% choice for me all the time.
But honestly, I hope this was a helpful guide for you guys to find out kind of how certain slimes consistencies are, what to look for in certain slimes for certain board games even, and toys, what you're looking for, and why there are a lot of individuals who like toys really go for like that Mattel slime texture over something like the thickness of a dollar store slime, which can tear. And I go over a little bit of that, and I hope that was helpful in making that little bit of decision, or you found it entertaining just to look at slime for this video. But that is honestly all I have for you guys today. If you're interested in notifications, there's a bell up there somewhere. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I do appreciate any feedback. I'm trying to make these videos more and more outrageous, and with your guys' help, I have been doing so. Monday, regular board game reviews. Wednesday, weekly updates / talks, and then on Fridays, my vintage board game reviews. That is all I have for you guys today. I'll see you guys next time.